Hi everybody, I am Lavallo and I have been to every country and most of my videos are about travel and what it meant and what it took to go to every country and my stories from there. But this month, because I am 1 month away from turning 30, I am doing a series mostly for me, also for the people who have been following along for a long time and who really feel like they know me, a little bit more personal. And so today I am talking about how I succeeded in my 20s. So I did a video last week about how I failed. And I think that in this period of reflecting on what has been the last decade of my life and thinking about what has been the good and the bad and the beautiful and the ugly, I think it's been really important for me to look at, there's the two kittens playing. I'm just gonna let them play for your guys' enjoyment. So I think it's been really important to reflect on what has been good, what has been bad, and what I can learn as I go into the next stage of my life. So there are three main ways that I really feel like I have succeeded in my 20s. And so I am going to share those here. The first way, and the thing that I'm most proud of succeeding in my 20s, is the personal goals. And I think the biggest one of that, obviously the one most relevant to the channel, is the travel to every country. It was something that I always kind of thought about doing, traveling a lot, visiting every place, but then to really set the goal, to make the plans, to get it done, and to achieve something that very few people had ever done at such an age, and very few people have done, period, was really amazing. I mean, to set a goal and to accomplish it at such a young age is phenomenal, and it also makes you reflect a little bit on what else is there. And I think the really important part of that is to have lots of different personal goals, because I know a handful of people who all they've wanted their whole life is to go to every country in the world, and then when they get there, they're like, what's next? And it's hard for them to figure that out. It's the same with a lot of athletes who will peak when they're younger, go to the Olympics when they're in their 20s and then not know what to do in the future. And then because I had goals that weren't just travel related personally, and actually really related to that was I had this goal of kind of settling down. And I think a big part of that was finding my forever place in Abu Dhabi. And the whole 2.5 years that I was traveling full time, I was thinking a lot about where I wanted to be, how I love to be moving, but I also wanted a place to call home and a place to settle in. And now I really feel like I have that here. I have the place that I feel like I want to be for the rest of my life. I have created a home that I feel like is really nice and beautiful. And that's equally as important as the other personal goals, like the travel to every country. The second way that I think I have succeeded in my 20s is professionally. So if you would have told me when I was 20 where I would be in my career when I am about to turn 30, I don't think I would have believed it, because it seems very disparate. What I'm doing now, doing investing, seems very separate from what I was thinking I would do when I was 20, which was NGO work essentially. However, there is a piece that is woven throughout it all, which is economic development, which has always been my interest and has always been what I wanted to give my professional career to. And at the beginning of my career, I thought that to do economic development was to do NGO work, to work at a charity. And so I founded my own, I worked with others, and that was phenomenal. And then I learned about consulting and strategy consulting, and I thought this is the best way to actually learn about the entire development space, because I can work with a lot of the different players. And so for over 3 years, I did that for some of the best firms in the world in development and generally. And I was able to do an incredible amount of projects all around the world, doing education in Pakistan, doing female empowerment in India, doing large-scale development projects in Saudi Arabia, doing education initiatives in Kenya, doing philanthropy throughout the Middle East and in Europe. And all of these projects and all this exposure to development was really fascinating and really allowed me to think about, what do I think development means and what do I think is the way that I can have an impact in that. And so that actually led me away from, the social sector and more towards the private sector and the public sector's involvement in spurring the private sector, which is why now I work for the government doing economic development, investments and incentive programs, because I think that the way to actually spur development is to allow like successful companies that are employing people that are having innovative solutions that are changing the world. And so I don't think if I was 20 and I was told what I was doing now, I think I'd be impressed. I think I'd be happy and surprised, but I don't think I would have understood all of the connections that got me to this point. And what I think is such a success was really being open to that journey of like weaving in and out and really focusing my entire professional career in my 20s on trying to learn, on just wanting to be better, learning about what I'm doing and how I can do that. I also think it's really important in looking at the success in your professional career is your progress and the respect and the trust that you get from your leadership and from your team members. And I also feel incredibly lucky about the people I've gotten to work with, the people who have trusted in me, the people who have given me positions that empower me to make a change and to make an impact, because that is the whole reason why I'm in love with my jobs and would always want to be doing that. The final point on how I think that I succeeded in my 20s relates directly to what I talked about at the very end of the failure video, which is on relationships. So I had said in the video that I feel like I failed on relationships in my 20s because I spent the early part in too serious of relationships and the second half in no relationship at all. And I do agree with that. I do kind of wish it was switched around. I wish I had, more of a healthy focus on relationships, and I am looking to do that in my 30s. But when I think back to 10 years ago, when I was 20, exactly 10 years ago, I was in an incredibly abusive relationship that really ruined the way that I view love and relationships. And that is something that's very, very hard for somebody who's very young to go through. And I've shared a little bit about it before on the channel and with you guys. And it's hard to talk about, one, because it's so personal, and two, because I haven't even fully, despite all the professional help and all of the support from friends and stuff that I've gotten, I haven't been able to really entirely understand it. Not that I maybe ever could, but there is one thing that I always think about, which is that when you are put into a place like that at such a young age by somebody else, and when you are so constantly put down, and when you have traumatic experiences and you suffer from PTSD, to then be happy in any way is a success. And so as much as I feel maybe the arc of my relationship journeys in my 20s wasn't entirely successful, when I look at from where I was in the 20s to where I am now, it's a major success, because every time that I smile, I think is a win. And that seems so, I don't know, maybe it's hard to understand if you haven't been a victim of abuse or known somebody who has. But I don't know, a lot of people around me think that I'm such this happy person, and that is a success because of where I had come from 10 years ago. And so overall, I don't know exactly how to explain it. It's really difficult for me, and I'm not in the right headspace right now. I'm kind of rushed and stuff to think about it, but that is definitely a major success in my 20s. So there you guys have it. Those were 3 of the main successes that I've seen in this last decade of my life. I'm looking so forward to my 30s and all the successes that will come from that, God willing. And so I'm going to continue to share with you guys some of these reflections. I hope they're not too boring. I know that for the small number of you guys that like really enjoy getting to know me, that this is good. And I'm also excited to look back on these videos in the future. So thank you for watching and for listening, and I hope that we will chat again soon. God willing.